Hello Marvel Heroes fans, my name is Wilfred and welcome to my channel. I've been making a lot of guides for this game, Marvel Heroes, for quite some time, and after the patch 2.0, which is the biggest system update ever, I've started to revisit all my guides again. So I'm opening a brand new link in my website. Just check out the description below, and I'm going to put all the new guides and so on moving forward in that link. Alright, so now usually in my guides, I'll talk about the gear, talk about the Infinity system or Omega system last time and so on and so forth. But from my experience playing this game for quite some time, I realized that the build usually do not change much, but the system may change a little bit more often, and the gear may change even more often. So, just to work with that kind of like a development cycle, I would like to separate my guide in a way that this guide is really talking about the build and the number crunching behind it, so as to share with you my finding. And even if you do not like the power that I use, I'll give you the insight so that you can pick the power that suits your Angela. All right. So now, as for the gear, because now I'm still using the pre 2.0 kind of gear, so there's nothing much to really talk about. But when Omega gear come out, I'll probably come out with another set of videos, just talk a little bit about the gear and Infinity system as well. Once the new gear sets in, I'll do theory crafting on that as well for you guys. So just bear with me on that. But I'd like to focus this video on the build itself. Now, how do I find the build? Some of you know I love mathematics. So what I've done is that I remove all the gears, all the infinity points, and all the synergies, team up gear, so on and so forth. Just looking at the hero designs that this is, and try my best to mathematically model different scenario, like always brutal, always crit, and stuff like that, to just find out where are all the area that I could exploit. And more so, if you follow my guide or my channel, you know that I'm looking for builds that are effective and fun. Not necessarily the fastest kill, but I'll share with you which are the powers that are good. Why do I say that? Because I found that for Angela, if I pick all this power that's really powerful for raid, for example, against mostly single target, first of all, in an environment whereby if I solo Cosmic Terminal or even harder contents, maybe Cosmic Danger Room, I do need some kind of crowd control and also something of like, to sort of mitigate some of the damage. I can't really go all out on DPS. But most importantly, I found that it's extremely hard right now for my Angela, I only have 1,000 infinity points to sustain the spirit, kind of like output. So I'm not going to use the most optimum beast kind of like damage build, but I'm using a more area build with a decent amount of movement, a decent amount of crowd control, and I hope you enjoy this video. And I'm going to separate this video, a couple of parts to it. If you like to just jump to any part of the video, check out the time code below this video. Just go anywhere you like, and feel free to drop any comments here. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you my spreadsheet as well on how I derive some of these numbers, just some insight from there on. All right. First of all, I would like to go through all the powers that she has, just to give you some insight on where things are, and I'll support it with some of the numbers I'll share with you. But this part of the video, not going to overburden you with some of the number, so you can just take my word for it for now, and you can also kind of like experiment and discover for yourself as well. All right. So now there are some basic power, but I'm not going to talk too much about it because basic power usually are just not as great. I think it's about 50% down from the damage output perspective. So unless you really can't sustain the spirit, maybe when you are leveling, then you may want to use basic power. Right. So now Rage of the Siphos has a really extremely high DPS. It's very good DPS, by the way. It does root you for a little bit when you do your thing, because it's 5 hit kind of power. But couple that with one of the talents, which is the bleed as well, will give this power very good opportunity for damage output, provided that you can be comfortable with the fact that you are being rooted, as well as the I think this, yeah. So that is something you have to think about. Then the Whirling Wrath is the one that I use it as a main spender, because mine is a more area build. I want to be able to solo a lot of content, has a lot of mobs around me, but that's only my choice. This one can't compare with the other spender, which is the Hunter's Blade. Hunter's Blade is the highest DPS. This one is slightly left behind. I'll show you some numbers behind. But of course, because it's an area damage, so it does hit more mobs. So to compensate that, Compared with this one, then this one has a lower DPS, but it hit more targets. And also, because of the talent that I'm using, Relentless, I'm actually able to apply vulnerability as I do my main spender. That will free up one of the power that is an invulnerability power. Later on, I'll introduce that to you. But you can free that up. You don't need to use that because vulnerability debuff power usually are of a lower kind of DPS, as you may have already known. All right. Then you have the Know My Name and Reaper, which is also decent for the single target raid boss kind of thing because it's a melee attack, but without the so-called the area attack to it. So you may use Know My Name and Weep if you like to just focus on your single target raid kind of rotation. Then you have the Icarus Wrath. With the talent, you are doing the executes to it. So it's very nice tier here. The Killing Blow, which is the talent, the supplement with this Icarus Wrath. Alternatively, you can also have a Stunning Icar, which is one of this guy here, to buff become the execute kind of thing. Now, how execute works is that the lower the health of the mob, the more damage you deal. All right, so that's as simple as that. So these are really good kind of stats to it. So pick one. Either you like Stunning Icar or you like Icarus Wrath. Bear in mind that melee, although its area is still, I think, let me just look at number again, but I still think that this is a better power in terms of the damage output. Then I've talked about this one already, single spender. If you like to just go for single target, this is a rather decent power to use. Then the Heaven's Fury is one of my favorite. Why? Because although the animation is rather long and it could well be a DPS loss in some sense, however, for the around 2 to 3 seconds time while you're doing your 10 hit, you are invulnerable. So that makes this power really attractive to use. And I'm using one of the cooldown reduction on this all the assassins armory, or this tree here. I have used a cooldown reduction from 8 seconds to 6 seconds so that you can use this more often. Now, why this one is useful is sometimes when you are in some kind of tricky situation whereby there's a whole poison puddle, whatever in here, or the boss is going to do something massive to you, and you could still use those things that just avoid that 2 seconds, and while you still do decent amount of damage. So I would say this is a rather nice mechanic, and it gives you a little bit of mobility kind of like reaction to it. So you can say, wow, now it's time I need to do it because I want to go back in. Sometimes it kite a bit, I can go back in again for the Heaven's Fury. So I love it. But from DPS perspective, then you may say, well, animation taken into consideration, it may be another story. But my build always is about effective fun and being able to survive through it. All right. So now, signature is never really my favorite here, but it does have a ribbon kind of like tag to it. So do bear that in mind. But it is I find it a little bit hard sometimes to aim. But your Angela will then move into the target. So it could be nice if you like to dive back into the action, but do bear in mind that it is a movement power, so when you use it, you actually go back into the so-called battle, and if there's a lot of nonsense around it, be a bleed or the boss is going to do something like stun or whatnot, then try not to use it first. So you just have to time a little bit. Not my favorite signature, but it is what it is. So you do it 3 times. Every time you do it, you get a 15% increase of vulnerability. So stack up to 2 times, so you're 30%. We then add on to the final hit that is supposed to be the hardest hit. All right. So that is the nothing for nothing. So now talk a lot on the Assassin's Armory. Another one is a Heavenly Ribbon. On the Heavenly Ribbon side, if you are not using the Whirling Wrath plus the Relentless kind of like a talent augmentation, then you probably would need to take the ribbon. It's pretty low DPS. However, I mean, you can well compensate it by the rage of Siphons together with the bleed to it as well, because you can free it up. You don't need to take this one, you can take this one to give you a bleed for your rage of Siphon, but you probably would need to use the ribbon to it. All right, so now next up is the Heavenly Charge. Nothing really fantastic on that. It's one of those things that's been introduced in this patch 2.0 as part of the gameplay to slow you down a little bit, to think when to use a charge and so on. 3 charges, 4-second cooldown per charge. So I would advise use it when you need it, and if you don't need it, just reposition yourself Alright, so now Binding Ribbon is not really my favorite. However, it is an area tag, and also it is like probably is better. It has a stun to it, has a weaken to it. So I'm a little bit torn, guys, because my buff is always on the melee side. So you could either use the Binding Ribbon or you can use the Withering as well. Either way is fine. So because both are rather low DPS, ideally if I'm gearing for melee with my blessing to it, then I should be using the Withering Ribbon, ribbons. But the Binding Ribbon does has its own merit as well. The weaken as well as stun is not that bad in a hard content. So do think about that. Treat it as a utility. Can't really max and min everything. Alright. Hypnotic Ribbons is one of my favorite, especially for harder content. It would be really useful for you to just confuse all the mobs around you. Do you need to use it during raid? Probably not. You can pick another layer. But it is one of those things that are very, very useful in any environment for Angela to survive some of these, like, mobs that can be a little bit overwhelming. Use it when you can time it against your stun, against the smite and stuff like that. You probably can sort of like spread it out a little bit rather than just sometime click it whenever its cooldown is off. A little bit of engagement in the whole kind of like gameplay. All right, because as the mob is done, they don't really do damage by themselves, so something like that. So use it when they are not stunned or so on. Angelic Smite is one of my favorite. Don't mind the tag. I think the signature tag is a little bit wrong there, but Angelic Smite is one that give you the kind of like charge into target. It has an 8-second cooldown. You could actually lower the cooldown to 6 seconds using one of these instead of cooldown of non-signature of this one. Use the other one, which is the Heavenly Ribbons cooldown reduction. I found that I value Heavenly Fury a little bit better, Heaven's Fury a bit better, and also this execute Icarus Wrath is rather nice as well, especially towards the end of the life of the boss. This one hits rather hard as well, so I rather reduce the kind of like cooldown on this one. However, if you like to just jump a little bit more often, why not, right? Why not? It's your game, all right? So this is something that I would like to sort of like advise you to pick this one as well. Piercing Ribbon is very strange. It works something like it's like a channeled power. It recovers your health, but you are rooted as well as you are actually dealing damage as well. But it burns quite a lot of spirit. I don't think you could use it as I suppose you can use it as a utility in some sense, but it's something that I would probably pick the Hypnotic Ribbon to mitigate damage rather than recover health while single target piercing someone. And also in this game right now it has a lot of movement, so it doesn't really have a lot like gameplay potential here. But it's very niche. If you like a niche build, then you could actually use this to recover your health, especially if your core or catalyst doesn't really give you the 25% or 3000 health back. So something to think about. Stunning Icar is the one that is like a counterpart of the Icar's Wrath. So if you pick this one, then don't pick this one. If you pick this one, you probably don't pick this one. Something like that. All right. So now, as for Angela, she is a durability and speed hero. So gear accordingly. Whatever that plus durability is good, plus speed is good. So pick the gear. Now, please pick the right gear. Now, she has a living ribbon, the one that is at her back. Interestingly, a lot of the talents tier talk about the ribbon. So, it is one of those very passive things. Sometimes it hit the right target, sometimes it doesn't. So it's something that I'm not really paying too much attention on, but it's there. All right. So it does a physical damage with no tag, whether it's melee or range. It's just like it's a free tag. All right. So now, last one, she's a defense dodge hero, although I think her defense is higher than the dodge in some sense. So, the dodge doesn't really scale up as well as on the defense. So just something to think about. Now, I'm not going to go through too much on this part because I've already talked about quite a number of them. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more background on those that I haven't really talked about. So things like this one, do you want to slow enemies? Probably not, because at the rate, boss can't be slow. Okay, so say if you do not want to do an Angelic Smite for 2 times, between these two, I recommend the Bleed. The number-wise looks better. So even if I take into consideration of the crit chance and brutal chance increase as well as total damage, I think this one is still a better way to go. So up to you. If you don't want to pick this one, pick this one. All right. Then whether you want to lower the cooldown for this side, or you can do a whenever you do a heavenly ribbon power, which is one of these power, but it must not be a damage over time. So things like this is fine, things like, this is fine, then, you buff your assassinate armory. So in a sense, if you like to do a lot of seesaw action, like 1 power ribbon, 1 power on the assassin side, 1 power on ribbon, and 1 power on assassin side, it's your choice. But I like to keep things simple. I like survivability, so I like to reduce my heavenly fury to 6 seconds. My personal choice. So that is the, now more ribbon to you. So between these 3, by the way, this one has the highest potential between these 2. So whipping ribbon will increase the attack rate from once in 3 seconds to once in 1.5 seconds, I believe. That's right. Every 3 seconds. Increase it double the attack rate. So it is a rather nice, decent layer if it hit the right target. So in a raid environment, I probably would pick this one because there's only 1 target to hit in like Sutur raid, right? Then this one is really about bringing the target onto you and always crit. But I work out the number, doesn't really justify the whole cost to it. So it is very niche, in some sense, very niche. The third one is I prefer some survivability because I foresee this is my main heroes. I like to gear her as well as spec her in order to do some of the hardest content out there comfortably. And also with my latency, as you can see later, I tend to get rubber band back to the dead zone. So for example, if the boss going to hit on me and I manage to run out, but I'll rubber band back in because of a lag and I got hit. So it's one of those things that I like to just build my hero a little bit more on the defensive side because it's just latency, just kind of bad on my side of the world. For this game, for other game, it's not the case. Then the last one is where I talk about these 2 already execute, but do you want to use a third one? Again, it's very kind of niche because it's kind of like cooldown kind of right reduction. It reset the cooldown except the signature and the ultimate power. Of course, you can't reset those. It could be rather interesting when you are in a cosmic patrol or some kind of easier content, maybe not even cosmic. Then whenever you do that, you got a lot of things that if you reset, it could be rather fun. But I stick to my execute because I want my single target to be right. So that is all that I would like to talk about the build and the trait and talents. From the gearing perspective, I'm not going to go through the actual gear because gear changes all the time. My advice to you when it comes to hero synergy and gear, go for the attribute, which is durability and speed. Go for anything that increase the crit chance, increase the brutal chance, as well as crit damage rating. I think you should pay attention to that as well. That would help you to multiply your damage up. She's a physical hero, and by and large, she's a melee hero. So if you pick this one instead of that one, she's basically all melee, all area. So whatever synergy you pick area, pick melee, it'd probably be rather nice. But I use this one more for a little bit of defensive. So do pay attention to your health as well as the any defensive step because you need to survive in order to do all this damage and so on. Oh, sorry. All right. So I'm going to go through the actual gameplay. In this part of the video, I'm going to play some Angela, and I'm going to just do one of the legendary quests I have, which is the Shocker. I'm using the highest difficulties right now, which is just after the biggest update ever, which is cosmic difficulties on the Shocker. And also, I'm using pre 2.0 kind of gear. So gear-wise, I'm not really there because they haven't got any Omega gear right now. But I'm going to just play it and notice how friendly it is in terms of the area damage, how mobile it is, and also just in general how fun it is on this build. And it could be one build that you will find it useful as well. So I hope you go take a look at this and see whether it is your cup of tea or not. But I do kind of like it a lot. So, all right. So, okay. So this is like have a lot of utility here. I'm going to use a signature here, 1, 2, 3, and you can have a hypnosis as well, which is the one that will make everybody attacking, not attacking Angela, which is kind of neat as well. All right, so I'm just going to clear the whole thing, and as you can see, there's some spirit issue here and there, but this build by and large is rather friendly. This really could be rather exciting as well, so I'm just going to use my hypnosis, but I think it shouldn't overlap with the Deadpool one. So now this is a bit dicey right now because a lot of mobs going around, and let me just do something here, and yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't stand on the bad stuff. All right, this is a Heaven's Fury, and it's a nice way to just, you know, avoid damage, because for that 3 seconds you are actually invulnerable. So that's rather nice for this Heaven's Fury. So that is something that I would highly recommend. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one here. So I'll try to time my hypnosis not to overlap with my Deadpool server lag, because that will be rather a waste in a way, because they are being crowd controlled. And also I'm trying to just like clear the dungeon. You know, sometimes it's rather fun to just do something different. There you go. So I aggro quite a fair bit of stuff here. 1, 2, 3, and a Heaven's Fury again. Then I do a smite, and the binding wrath. The binding is not really a high DPS, but given that, I mean, this is more like an area build. So given what I have is all right, you know. So you can have like 1, 2, and don't forget the smite has a damage over time to it. So if you do, you know, just spread the thing across different kind of mob, that will be rather useful as well. Just bear that in mind. Know your power. Know your power is important. All right. So that's done, and 1, 2. Right, so that's right, that's it. So as you can see, this game kind of slowed down a little bit. Well, because this is the highest difficulty as well, and they did say that, they did warn you that it is a little bit of slowing down. But I think it just in the end could well be just a matter of it doesn't reach that side. It could well be just a matter of getting used to yeah. So stay away from all this poison stuff, and smite in, and that's it. Try to avoid some damage here. Now I'm using a core whereby it is a more defensive core, but I'm just waiting for that recipe for me to exchange the costume or catalyst affixes. So I'm using a defensive build, by the way, because it's supposed to be highest difficulty. So I just like to take a little bit cautious. So by right, I should be able to do it a little bit faster. But just to show you how fun this whole thing is. My pet is still not up to the rank yet, because I've just started leveling this pet, because after the attribute change, the whole thing changes as well. So, right, so maybe I just like, you know, I don't know, man. I just would like to, you know, slow down as well. We all slow down together, and just enjoy the game as it is. You know, just as a hero, just kill off everything. Maybe, perhaps, maybe not. You know what? I'm just going to go through in the shocker, and I'm going to use an ultimate here, and let's see how it goes. Ultimate of Angela here. Use a hypnotic thingy. Alright, so this is a well, I don't even need to use him. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't stand on the thing there. This is important. 3. Get out. Well, you know, I did try to get out. It's Heaven's Fury. Get out. A bit of cautious there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and Heaven's Fury. And get out from this kind of like poison there. It's not going to help you. And they charge you here, fine. 1, 2, Heaven's Fury. Okay, so what else is now see, I walked away and I rubber band in. See, that's the thing about the latency, that I don't think a higher difficulties really work for me, because you know I jump out, right, and I rubber band in when the shocker come down. So in other game like Path of Exile, it would never have happened, but in this game it just happened. You know, I will dash out, but it hit me again. So I hope you got to have an idea. This build, while may not be the highest kind of like DPS, and I'll show you a spreadsheet in just a bit, but it's rather playable. It is the higher difficulties. I could have made it a little bit faster if I were to use if I were to use a core whereby give me the crit damage rating, but I haven't really got the I wish I could just swap the affixes between the two, so that I can make use of the purple kind of text. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this part of the video. Next part is really about going through the spreadsheet if you want to look into the numbers and so on. All right. I hope you enjoy what you just seen, and if you like this sort of video, do check out the link below, of course. And now this part of the video is talk about the numbers and so on. So if you don't want to stay on because it's too technical in some sense, I understand, and thank you very much for watching. Now, for those who like to know a little bit of the power and so on, I've started to do what I've done always, to look into some of these numbers behind the scene without any gear, no infinity pawn. My apologies. Sometimes no infinity pawn, and also there's a certain assumption on the crit chance and brutal chance and crit damage rating and brutal damage rating. I'm sure you can do better than me. All right, so I'm not saying that I'm not that, like, you know, highly geared and so on. And right now I'm still using pre 2.0 gear, so I'm very sure you can do better than me. But just for me to mathematically approximate certain things, and why do I need to know where my targets kind of like you know, crit and brutal is? Because there are some power that will guarantee crit, there are some power that will guarantee brutal. I need to know when that happens, what is my potential damage output. But more so, I would also like to compare apple to apple, because I can't really use, you know, one of the powers, say 100% brutal, and I buff it up to be pretty high because of the brutal kind of like formula to it. And then after that, I compare that with the rest that doesn't even have the crit component to it. It's not fair. So there's a certain coefficient that I use to sort of like moderate that kind of like you know, just to compare apple to apple without going too deep into the so-called you know, all the technicality behind. I sort of like, you know, come up with something that that helped me to at least, you know, have a fair kind of like a comparison between some of this power. So now, like I said before, the basic power is not really high compared to, say, you know, the non-basic power, and there is a difference between the area damage single spender as well as, you know, Whirling Wrath versus the Hunter's Blade. The difference is about 15%, you know, difference if you use this as a single spender versus the other one. Damage per resource spend is rather interestingly, it's the same. So it doesn't matter which one you use, it still costs that much, the amount of spirit, but one will deliver more damage. So it's really up to you. All right, but of course, you know, having, you know, do remember that spirit is important as well. If you choose a single target build, that one costs a lot of spirit to sustain. Just saying, right? If you look at the rate of the C-Force, even with itself at oh, by the way, maybe before I get there, if you watch my previous video before this biggest update ever, the DPS of the main spender usually is at least double of this number. So I presume that you know, all the powers are being relegated to rank 1 possibly, rather than the everything brought up to the max rank 20. Does it matter? No, it doesn't, because everything is relative anyway. But I thought to let you know now that I'm looking into number, which is very exciting. All right, so now if you look at rate of C-Force, it's one of the highest. Layer, right, main spender is always the highest, but do bear in mind that whatever DPS you calculate as a rotation kind of thing, you have to discount it, because you can't keep this 100% uptime with all this animation, all this layer and so on. This will reduce accordingly. So the layers are important because you pop it and it do a different kind of damage to it. So 5 hit 3.4k DPS is rather high as a layer. And also another one is that if you use the slaying blade to give you that bleeding kind of damage over time, that will make it even more awesome. So 7.8 is really high. So I would presume that you know, you may want to look into this if you want to, like, you know, do something to you know, kind of like, you know, do something to your build there. All right, so now Know My Name and Weep also pretty high as well. So 3.7, 3.9, 3.8k is not insignificant. So I kind of recommend that. Icar's Wrath, I remember I talked about Icar's Wrath, which is melee area, versus the Stunning Icar, which is you know, 1.2 versus the 2.7. So of course the area melee is still wins in that sense, 100% brutal in that sense. All right, so 2.7 also very high. Heaven's Fury is actually pretty high DPS as well, but bear in mind that it has 2 to 3 seconds of animation to it. It feels like 3 seconds. I haven't really timed it, but it could well be 2 seconds. I don't know, because in this game sometimes when you hang there for 2 seconds, you feel like forever, right? The signature is a 3.7K kind of like a layer, so everything is rather nice. 2.7, 3.7 kind of thing. Something to take note of. And withering ribbons, talk about that, give you the vulnerability debuff is only 1.2K. That's why the binding ribbon is still better if you look at your hero with no gear. However, I mean, I presume that my withering ribbon would probably be higher because I have melee buffed. I have blessing that buffed the melee. So in that sense, I mean, this is really for stun and weaken. For my case, for binding ribbon, but do take note there's some number differential there. Angelic Smite is a movement power with a knockdown, so it's 2.8K, which is not that fantastic. But if you do it twice, it's 4.8K. But bear in mind that when you do all these things, has animation as well, so it discounts your main spender. So I think all in all, this is there's a cost to it, hidden cost. Don't just look into the spirit consumption. There are other things like the animation as well. All right. Piercing ribbon actually pretty high DPS. Why? Because you have to stay still to do it. I think it's one of the very niche build. Stunning I can talk about it. Now, if you talk about the living ribbons trait and talent wise, on its own it's about 1.5K, not that fantastic, but still better than your withering ribbon if it hit the right target. Then you have the if you do a striking ribbon or sighting ribbon, which is the tier 2 of the talent. So I can say the bleed one actually is better. So I will still presume that you would like to pick the bleed. And also the if you look at the 4th tier between the two of them, whether you want to double your attack speed or always crit and pull the mob in, then I'll say go for a double speed to it. So this will be it. So of course you can combine everything together and say, well, can I pick this and that? Well, you can. This tier 2 and 4. But tier 2, I probably would like to have the Angelic Smite 2 times. But if you say that 1 time is enough, then you can say I want to buff my living ribbon, even more awesome. All right, so now that is really all. It's a very first video I've made, guys, since a long time. Thank you, Gazillion, for finally gotten the update live. Although this update maybe right now is still a lot of rough edges to go for. So what else I'd like to talk about? Nothing else really. I'm happy to answer any question you have. Happy to take any requests, but give me some time to work things through, because all this number crunching and experimenting what build that is efficient and effective, most importantly, does take some time. So I'll see you next time. My name is Wilfred, and bye.